There's a certain kind of man that women can't quite explain their attraction to. He's not necessarily the best looking guy there. He's not the loudest. He's not performing. He's not running any kind of game. But there's something about him that pulls at her in a way she can't fully articulate. Something behind his eyes, something in the way he carries himself, like he's been somewhere, like he's seen something, like life has already put him through it and he came out the other side not bitter, not broken, not hardened into coldness, but refined, quiet, sure of himself in a way that has nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with having already survived the thing most people are still afraid of. That man is dangerous, not in the way that word usually gets used, dangerous in the way that means she cannot stop thinking about him. And today I want to talk about why, because if you've been through real pain, real failure, real heartbreak, and you're sitting there thinking that it made you less attractive, less worthy, less capable of connection, I want you to hear this clearly. You have it completely backwards. Let me start with something honest. Most men walking around out there are operating from a completely unexamined place. They haven't been tested yet. Not really. Their confidence is surface level. It's built on things going right, on plans working out, on never having been forced to sit with themselves in a moment where everything fell apart and there was nothing left to distract them from who they actually were. That kind of untested confidence is fragile. Women feel it even when they can't name it. It's the confidence that crumbles the second things stop going smoothly. The second she pulls back a little, he panics. The second life gets hard, he looks for someone to regulate him. The second his ego takes a hit, the whole front comes down. Women have been burned by that kind of confidence before. They learned the hard way that a man who has never been broken doesn't actually know who he is yet, because you don't find out who you are when everything's going well. You find out who you are when everything's falling apart, and you have no choice but to keep going anyway. And that's where the man who's been through it carries something different, because he already knows, he already went through the thing, the relationship that destroyed him, the failure that embarrassed him, the period where he lost everything and had to rebuild from a place he didn't even know existed. He sat in that darkness. He didn't run from it. Maybe he tried to at first. Most people do, but eventually he had to face it. And in facing it, something got forged in him that can't be faked and can't be performed, a kind of quiet certainty, groundedness that comes not from life always going his way, but from knowing that even when it doesn't, he will be okay. He has proof. He survived before, he'll survive again. And that knowing changes everything about the way he moves through the world. Think about what women are actually looking for underneath all the surface stuff, underneath the attraction, the chemistry, the fun of a new connection. What they're actually looking for is safety, not safety in a boring way, safety in the deepest possible sense, the feeling that this man is not going to fall apart when things get hard, that his love, his presence, his stability isn't conditional on everything going perfectly, that she can have a bad day, a bad week, a hard season, and he will still be standing there grounded, present, not running, not crumbling, not making her feel guilty for needing something real. And the only man who can offer that kind of safety is the man who has already proven it to himself, the man who has already been to the floor and stood back up, because she can feel that in him. She feels it in the way he doesn't flinch, in the way he doesn't need constant reassurance, in the way he can hold space for her without immediately making it about him. That's not a technique. That's earned. That's the product of a man who did the work on himself, whether he wanted to or not. Now, here's where it gets important, because there's a fork in the road for every man who goes through real pain. And the direction you take at that fork determines everything. One direction is bitterness. It's the man who went through the heartbreak or the failure or the loss and came out the other side deciding that the world owes him something, that women can't be trusted, that vulnerability is weakness, that the lesson of pain is to close off, armor up, and never let anything touch him again. And that man, bro, carries the heaviest energy in the room. You can feel it before he even speaks. A coldness that masquerades as strength, a distance that performs as confidence. But women feel the wound underneath it. They feel the anger that hasn't been processed, the grief that never got acknowledged. And no matter how attracted they might be initially to the mysterious surface, they pull back eventually because something in them knows that getting close to that wound means getting burned by it. Unprocessed pain doesn't disappear, it just redirects. And it always finds someone to redirect onto. The other direction is integration. It's the man who went through the fire and decided to actually feel it, to sit with what happened, to ask himself hard questions, to stop blaming everything outside of him and start looking at what was inside him that needed to change. Maybe he went through a relationship that collapsed because he was emotionally unavailable. And instead of deciding women are crazy, he looked at himself honestly and acknowledged that. Maybe he failed at something publicly, and instead of bearing the shame, he let himself feel it and then used it as fuel. Maybe he lost someone, and instead of numbing out, he allowed the grief to actually move through him. That process, that willingness to feel instead of flee, that is what produces the most quietly powerful men alive, because they are no longer afraid of pain. They've already been in it. They know it doesn't kill you. And a man who isn't afraid of pain cannot be controlled by the fear of it. He can't be manipulated by the threat of rejection. He can't be shaken by a woman testing his stability. He can't be rattled by silence or uncertainty or the normal friction of real connection, because he's already been through worse and he knows he's still here. That man walks into a room differently. He talks differently. He listens differently. He loves differently, not cautiously, not at arm's length, but fully, without losing himself in it, because he knows who he is now. He found that out the hard way, and knowing who you are at the level he knows it, that's a frequency women feel before the first word is spoken. She doesn't know why he feels different from the others. She just knows that being around him feels steadier, realer, like something about the interaction is grounded in something true instead of something performed. And here's what I want you to understand. If you've been carrying your past like a weight, like proof of your inadequacy, like evidence that you're too damaged or too far behind or too broken to be the kind of man that a woman would genuinely want, the pain you went through was not a subtraction. It was not the universe taking something from you. It was the universe building something in you that could not have been built any other way. The patience you developed waiting in uncertainty, the empathy you developed having your own heart broken, the self-awareness you developed when you had no choice but to face yourself honestly, the resilience you developed getting back up when every part of you wanted to stay down. None of that existed in you before, and none of it could have been faked into existence. It had to be earned, and you earned it. Even if nobody ever told you that, even if you've spent years wishing it hadn't happened, it made you into something real. And real is the rarest thing out here, because let me tell you what the dating landscape is actually full of. It's full of men performing strength they haven't actually developed, men pretending to be unbothered when they're actually terrified, men mimicking confidence they saw in a video instead of building it through living, men who have never really been tested, showing up with polished surfaces and hollow interiors, and women keep encountering that. They keep getting drawn in by the surface and then discovering there's nothing behind it. And then you walk in a man who has actually been somewhere, who has the quiet in him that only comes from having already survived something, who doesn't need to perform because he's already proven himself to himself, who can be fully present because he's done the work of actually processing his past instead of dragging it everywhere behind him. That contrast is electric. You don't have to try to stand out from that landscape. You already do. The work now is just to stop treating your past like a wound you have to hide. Stop seeing what you've been through as something that disqualifies you. Start seeing it as exactly what it is. The thing that made you capable of the kind of depth, presence, and genuine strength that most men will never develop because they were never forced to. That's not arrogance, that's accuracy. And when you carry it that way, not as something to prove, not as a story you tell to gain sympathy, just as a quiet truth that lives in the way you move and exist and show up, she feels it. She doesn't know what it is. She just knows she wants to be around it. She just knows you feel different. She just knows that something about the way you carry yourself makes her feel like she's finally in front of someone real. And real, bro, is what everything else has been trying to imitate.